I am often asked, is there a difference between male and female serial killers? Now, without getting lost down the rabbit hole and leading to Pandora's box on the current discourse of the genders and the sexes, I've noticed since the 20th century that criminologists and profilers agree there is indeed a distinct difference between male and female serial killers. In 1998, I was privileged to meet Dr. Eric Hickey, who's a professor at the California State University, and he's the author of the bestseller Serial Murderers and Their Victims. And I met him at the University of Liverpool's 5th Annual Conference on Serial Killers and Investigative Psychology. Now, at that conference, Dr. Hickey said, to say women cannot be a true serial killer unless she acts like a man is myopic. Firstly, there are less female serial killers than male serial killers, and conservative estimates that 16% of serial killers are female. However, should we take into account that female serial killers, are most often the quiet killers. Notably, the words that stand out when we read their case studies are eventually arrested. As discussed in my previous article, Remnant from the Victoria Era Mentality, female serial killers go undetected for very long periods, probably because nobody would suspect that a woman could commit such atrocious crimes. And law enforcement is very reluctant to arrest them or to persecute them or to take them to court because of their gentlest sex status. Now, Michael Kelleher and C. Kelleher, in Murder Most Rare Female Serial Killers, their book, examined 100 female serial killers, and they found that it took an average of 8 years to apprehend a female serial killer, while it will take an average of 4 years to apprehend a male serial killer. So female serial killers are also much less mobile than male serial killers. And Dr. Hickey noted female serial killers were classified as predominantly stay-at-home killers who operate carefully and inconspicuously and who may even avoid detection for several years. Heaney and Hyder, in their article Gender Differences in Serial Murderers, and this is in the Journal for Interpersonal Violence, argue that female serial killers mostly stay static, and therefore linkage blindage, that's referring to the difficulty in linking murders together due to their geographic location, should not occur. They confirm the reason for female serial killers taking so long to be detected can be ascribed to law enforcement's failure and other professionals to recognize that homicide has been committed and to respond appropriately. They confirm that family and friends may be reluctant to confront female killers with their suspicions. Now, which husband would voluntarily admit that his wife is a serial killer? Joseph Tinning, the husband of Mary Beth Tinning, a New York mother, was finally arrested and convicted on the death of her 9th child in 1987, with the previous 8 children dying under suspicious circumstances. He did nothing to stop her behavior. He recommended that she gets therapy and maybe she should use some kind of contraception. Now, Mary Beth Tinning was released in 2018, and her husband visited her in jail for over 3 decades. She will now be 82 years old. Female serial killers tend to target vulnerable people like unsuspecting husbands, children, the infirm, and the elderly. 3/4 of female serial killers do not kill strangers. They know their victims and they are related to them. Dr. Hickey says when family members are victims, husbands overwhelmingly become the primary target. Could they be detected less often because they are more intelligent or cunning than their male counterparts? Our leading expert on female serial killers, Dr. Marissa Harrison, she's an associate professor at the Penn State Harrisburg University, and she's the author of the wonderful book called Just as Deadly, The Psychology of Female Serial Killers. Please get the book. She found that male killers tend to have a high school education or less, and female serial killers tend to have more college education or higher qualifications. Now, continuing with the theme of quiet killers, female serial killers also prefer poison as their murder weapon of choice. And Dr. Hickey found that 80% of female serial killers use poison, 20% will use a firearm, about 16% bludgeoned their victims to death, 16% suffocated them, 11% stabbed them, and 5% drowned their victims. Obviously, this doesn't amount to 100% because they can use more than one method of killing. Now, in previous centuries, it was much more difficult to detect poison than it is today, and poison makes much less of a mess than a bloody physical attack. Heaney and Hyder also found that female serial killers tend not to damage their victims in the sense that male killers will mutilate, dismember, and exhibit overkill in their murders. The same difference applies to female serial killers being less likely to torture their victims. However, it will be a grave mistake to underestimate a female's capacity to torture their victims. Historic case histories, such as that of Countess Elizabeth Bathory, Daria Saltykova, and Delphine Lalaurie that I discussed in a previous article, refute this claim. British female serial killers Myra Hindley, with her partner Ian Brady, chopped a 17-year-old Edward Evans with an axe, and Rose West tortured the victims, the young ladies, very much, and she also murdered her 8-year-old stepdaughter, Charmaine, in 1971. And both of these women committed murder in tandem with their partners. So female serial killers apparently do not stalk their victims as the male counterparts do, although some of them were aggressive in procuring victims actively as boarding home tenants. They specifically targeted affluent potential husbands with life insurance policies, and they solicited prostitution for the purpose of robbery and murder, as did Eileen Wuornos. Now, Dr. Harrison, interestingly, points out that female serial killers maintain a gatherer's style, and their male counterparts adhere to hunter nature. Thank you, Dr. Harrison, for that contribution. There are different categories of female serial killers because criminologists and profilers found that the current classification that was used for the male serial killer, designed by the FBI in the 1980s, did not apply to female serial killers. So, and that was based upon the organized and the disorganized serial killers. So Keller and Keller suggested the following classifications. They divided the female serial killers in those who work alone and those who work with partners. Those who act alone are divided into the categories of the Black Widow, who systematically kills their spouses or people that they know, partners or other family members. The Angels of Death, who systematically will kill people in their care or people that need medical attention. The sexual predators, those that kill others in clear acts of sexual homicide. The revenge killers, the profit for crime killers like Eileen Wuornos. And then the serial killers who act in teams would be the team killers, of course. And then there's a question of sanity. Some female serial killers are mentally ill. Some of them we just don't know why they kill, and some of them are unsolved where they suspect that there might be a female involved. So despite their differences, female serial killers also share certain personality traits with the males. And this, Dr. Hickey mentioned, could be they are insincere, they are amoral, impulsive, prone to exercise manipulative charisma, they're superficial charm, without conscience, and little insight, and they fail to learn from their mistakes. Now, this is very typical of an antisocial personality disorder. Yet to me, the most remarkable difference between the male and female serial killers lies in the origin of these psychological motivations to kill. Male serial killers tend to kill to gratify a very deep subconscious psychological need. Yet surprisingly, Dr. Hickey found that the majority of female serial killers are motivated by financial gain. And this is mostly affirmed by other authors and researchers. So I was inspired by Dr. Hickey to investigate why female serial killers kill for money. And I found my answer in the 1943 theory of Abraham Maslow on the hierarchy of needs. Now, Maslow said there are 5 hierarchy of needs. Once the first hierarchy is gratified, then you will progress to the next one and so forth. Okay, so a basic need, if it is not gratified, will then dominate that person. That so much that the behavior is completely directed towards that need. Now, the 5 tiers are the following. Your first basic need is your physiological need, and this is hunger, thirst, sleep, and sex. The second need is the need for safety, and this is a very important one. This includes concepts such as security, stability, dependency, protection, freedom from fear, as well as from anxiety, chaos, the need for structure, for order, for law, and the strength of a protector. If this is not fulfilled, then Maslow says they may serve as the almost exclusive organizers of behavior, recruiting all the capacities of the organism in their service, and we may then fairly describe the whole organism as safety-seeking mechanism. This is important. Now, the third tier in the hierarchy of needs is the one of belongingness and loves, and this is to belong to a family, to a society, to have roots, and to feel loved. The fourth tier is the esteem needs. And he says there are first the desire for strength, for achievement, for adequacy, for mastery and competence, confidence in the face of the world, and independence and freedom. And secondly, he says this is the desire for a reputation or prestige, status, fame, glory, dominance, recognition, attention, importance, dignity, and appreciation. And then the fifth and the last pinnacle of the triangle of the hierarchy of needs, that is self-actualization. That is becoming the best version of yourself, transcending your ego to the better of mankind. Now, in my theory, there is a major difference in how men and women perceive money. To women, money represents safety, the second tier. To men, wealth represents the fourth tier, status and prestige. In antiquity, men benchmarked their masculinity and their success according to their physical prowess as warriors, Achilles and Hercules being archetypes of this. Yet today, they measure each other according to their bank accounts and their wealth. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg are the powerful men of the world. It cannot be said that they resemble Achilles. Traditionally, a girl's father was the one who provided for her basic material needs, for the safety. He provided the roof over her head, food and clothing, and if she was lucky, gifts, and he was also her protector. His love acted as a surety for her needs, for safety. Now, the father was the one who went out to work, so the father represented the community externally. The mother stayed at home, and she was the primary caregiver. It is not difficult to conceptualize the link that money equals a father's love in the subconscious of the little girl. There is no dispute that women can be breadwinners and that single mothers do a very good job in raising their children, and I have a lot of respect for them. But it is still men who are regarded as the daddy warbucks of this world. They buy presents, they pay for sex, and they express love through money. Should the little girl be rejected in some form or another by the father, should she be abandoned or molested, she will experience a yearning for his love, a void that can never be filled with money, money representing his love, to such an extent that some women will kill for the money. Now, Maslow's following observation seems very adequate in explaining this behavior. Particularly, everything looks less important than safety and protection. Even sometimes the physiological needs, which being satisfied, are now underestimated. A man or a woman in this state, if it is extreme enough and chronic enough, may be characterized as living almost for safety alone. Now, evolutionarily, women have been preyed upon by men. They were the spoils of war, the sex slaves. They were bartered and traded for, and they were beaten into submission. And this is anchored in their collective subconsciousness. Ask a woman, when last did she feel that her life is in danger? And she will answer, every day. Ask the same question to a man, and most of them will not be able to answer or to provide a very vague answer. Women's most basic need is to feel safe. Men need to conquer and to procreate, and sex is a powerful tool which revitalizes their ego and it elevates their testosterone levels. Serial killers have notoriously low self-esteem, and the majority of male serial killers kill mainly for sex, the first basic need. It makes them feel good and it makes them feel like men. The sexual act on the crime scene can be reverted back to one of the psychosexual developmental phases that the person fixated in, as I explained in my previous articles. But in the case of the majority of female serial killers who kill for money, it is Abraham Maslow's theory that applies. Money represents safety, the second tier of the basic needs. If you like our videos, please give us your thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel. And if you are interested in the full text on my theory on the development of serial killers based upon Maslow's theory on the hierarchy of needs, then please join my Patreon account by clicking on the link or by scanning the QR code. Thank you very much.